So let's move it lastly to Minnesota here. Over under Brad, 9 wins for Minnesota.
I want to give them the over, to be honest. I think they have a very good squad. And, I could be coming from a place of bias because growing up, Minnesota and not Chicago was always the enemy. They're the ones that had Randy Moss and Dante Culpepper. And so that maybe is sticking with me. It's like the purple uniform terrifies me, to be honest. Yep. So I always assume it's like Seattle. Something about Seattle, man. I don't want to play them.
Yeah.
But I do think that Kirk Cousins is more than capable of getting a team to the playoffs like we've seen.
Mm-hmm.
I would give them the over. What about you?
I'm with you, man. We actually are lock in step this week. It's a rarity for us to be 4 for 4.
It's true.
Yeah, I think that this feels like a 10-6 team to me. The change they made at the end of the year to change offensive coordinator there. And focusing on the running game, I think that's going to be the key. Kirk Cousins is a super effective quarterback as long as he's not on national TV, right? So
that's so true.
So I think this is a 10-6 team, which contributes to why I think the Bears are more like a 9-7, 8-8. I think this is a team that it would not shock me at all if 3 teams make the playoffs from this division. But there's a lot, as we talked about with the NFC East, man, there's a lot of good teams. You have Dallas and Philly in the East. You have these 3 that we just talked about. Sorry, Detroit, but I'm only thinking about the 3 teams there. You have Carolina, who's always kind of like a mystery, but I'm bigger on Atlanta. I know we'll get to it, but I'm bigger on Atlanta than you are. We still have the Saints. The 49ers are going to be better now with Garoppolo back. You have the Rams and you have the Seahawks, man. This is a deep – it wouldn't shock me, man. It wouldn't shock me if 3 get in. Wouldn't shock me if 1 get in this division. But there's a lot of talent and there's a lot of parity in this conference, so that's cool. Yeah, man, and the defense, they had some injuries, and I think Griffin was out, I think for personal reasons for a long time last year. I think the defense is going to take a step back up, and they weren't a bad defense. They just weren't dominant, but I think they're going to be back to maybe dominant form. I think they'll probably have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder even because everybody's talking about the Chicago defense, and they're within their own division. So I think that's going to, go into it. I like these Zimmer teams. They always play hard. Dalvin Cook, I think, is going to be a nice running back from a fantasy perspective. I see him as a second rounder, but everybody's sleeping. Remember, Latavius Murray, who's now in New Orleans this year, he had important carries last year. I think this is going to be a 2 running back offense. Everybody is sleeping on Alexander Mattison, the guy that they picked up in the draft this year. I think Madison is going to be a nice deep sleeper for people and be a great early season daily fantasy play. I think he's going to be a great late round pick for people. And if you're in a dynasty league, I think he's going to be a great dynasty pick because Dalvin Cook's always hurt, man. He always gets hurt. A receiver, man, I don't think there's a better tandem in the league. Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen, they're fantastic.
Great. They're great. Fantastic.
Yeah.
I think they have a great defense, too. Defensive line.
Yeah.
They got that secondary. Who's that white chocolate they got back there? That guy.
The guy from Notre Dame. I can't remember his name, but yeah, I know who you're talking about.
The guy's vicious, man. Yeah, safety. He's fantastic. It's a strong unit over there, man. It's a prideful bunch, too. It seems like I don't know why I get this impression, but it seems like it's a group of guys that really want to win and punish you while they do it.
And they play good team ball. They don't have a team of stars, which is what I'm concerned about with Cleveland. They play good team ball. They're a unit, right? It's almost like when you watch the Olympics, and the United States basketball team go there and they send their stars and they win. But there's always this one game where they run into a Spain or I don't know, a Brazil, a team that is full of 34-year-olds that have been playing together for 20 years, and they just play good team ball. Argentina, and I feel like this. If again, health is the big factor here with all of these things that we're talking about, but all things being equal, if they can stay healthy, this Minnesota team, man, this team is built to make a deep playoff run. I would, if the games weren't nationally televised in the playoffs, they're still going to get bounced the first game in the playoffs. But
their quarterback has never won a big game.
No,
he just hasn't won a big game. And it's
he gets the yips, man. It's like the Peyton Manning yips in these national TV games. So Cousins has
some dudes got it in the big moment, and some dudes don't.
Yeah,
man.
Look, Cousins is going to put up stats this year. I think he's kind of a lower level this year's starter. He is to me a top starter in the league. Like I think I have him 12th in my rankings going into preseason. So we'll see. Yep. But if you're in a 12-team league, that's a weekly starter. Yeah, man, but he's good. It's just that he just gets the yips a little bit in these big games, and he's got to have it games in these nationally televised games, which tend to, correlate, right? The got to have it games tend to be nationally televised, and
of course, right?
But I think 10-6, 11-5 is feasible for this team. I do.
I do too. Unfortunately.
Interesting division, buddy. Interesting division.
Yeah, it is an interesting division. It's actually projected, as we talk about it, to be one of the better ones, and I don't think that was the case maybe 2 years ago or even last year.
Yep.
I think and it's not like Detroit is some type of 3-win dumpster fire. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They could easily win 7 games, and I believe that's where their over/under was, right?
Yep.
So it's a competitive one, that's for sure.
Yeah, man. I think this whole NFC is going to be a brawl this year.
The NFC is just stacked and loaded. God.
I mean, I seriously, like, it wouldn't shock me. I'm going to name the teams off the top of my head that it wouldn't shock me if they make the Super Bowl, okay? Philadelphia wouldn't shock me.
Right.
Dallas would not shock me. Yeah. Green Bay, Minnesota would just because of the national TV angle.
Sure.
So Green Bay wouldn't shock me. I'd be a little surprised with Chicago. Wouldn't shock me.
Yep.
It wouldn't shock me if San Francisco makes a run with Garoppolo there and they win they just go 13-3. Wouldn't shock me.
Wouldn't shock me either.
I expect the Saints and the Rams to be there at the end of the year.
Check Seattle.
It wouldn't shock me if Dan Quinn gets the Atlanta defense back under control and Dirk Cutter's high-flying offense if Atlanta makes a run. We're only a couple years removed from Atlanta being in the Super Bowl and frankly should have won the Super Bowl against the Patriots. It wouldn't shock me. Two teams from every division could make the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's pretty stacked. I don't ever remember it being this way.
And then I look at the AFC. Obviously the Patriots and the Chiefs, right? It wouldn't shock me if the Chargers make it. I'd be a little surprised. Wouldn't shock me if Pittsburgh makes it. Then
no, not at all.
Right.
Sure.
So,
I think Pittsburgh could be there.
Then you're 4. You're at 4 teams. Wouldn't shock me if Indianapolis makes it. All
right. How about this? What about the Texans? Would that shock you?
A little surprised because I just don't think they're there yet on the offensive line. But wouldn't shock me. These are kind of like Chicago to me. Probably a better version of Chicago. Wouldn't completely blow me away. I'd be a little surprised, but wouldn't be like holy crap. When I look at these things, I'm like, okay, if I'm betting on futures for Super Bowl odds, who would I throw $10-20 down on? Every one of those teams I just mentioned, I'd be like, yeah, I could do that. I could do that.
Yep.
I could do that.
Yep. Right.
It's just, man, it's wide open this year. I love it.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah,
it's awesome. And we got how many more meaningless, pointless Sundays do we have to drudge through? Is it 4?
I think we might be at 6 because the first game's going to be after Labor Day, right? So we're gonna get the Hall of Fame game soonish. Then we got weeks 1, 2, and 3 of the preseason are usually pretty fun to at least monitor. And then we have that awful week 4 preseason, and then boom, it's there.
Yeah, and what's fun is that I like that first weekend where it's college and there's not football. It's here we go.
Yeah, it's
a nice weekend.
It's like the appetizer to the whole.
It is.
It's
like the appetizer. Well done.
Yes. All right.
You're brilliant. You're a brilliant man.
Oh man, sometimes I come up with some stuff.
And you're freaking gorgeous.
Oh, I'm fat now. I gotta get to the gym. I'm fat. I'm going vegetarian during the week now, man.
Well, that makes me so happy.
Yeah.
I was telling our mutual friend Rocco last weekend. I was messing with him. I said, I want everyone to get fat except me, because he's eating donuts or whatever the hell he's shoveling into his mouth. Yeah. Yes, get nice and fat.
Yeah, I know. The days of 6% body fat are a little far behind me. But I'll get back.
Just eating those Boston creams or the Krispy Kremes. What are they?
Boston creams, and no, I don't indulge in those as much. The problem actually is booze. I've been drinking too much of the scotch on the weekends, and having some cookie. I like that. The diet actually hasn't been awful. It's just I've been taking more calories in with the brown, with the scotches and the bourbons.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah, that'll do it for sure.
That'll do it.
But man, is that the?
Yeah, it's the best.
I reserve all my calories for booze. Yeah, so there it is.
Yeah, maybe. Brad, you and I have been talking about getting YouTube stuff up and running. Maybe we'll. One of the ideas I had, because I'm doing the super contest right in Vegas. Maybe we could do a show where we track our top 5 bets just on YouTube. where we'll split screen it. We'll talk about like our top 5 bets as a show, and we can call it just Scotch and Football or something like that.
Oh, I dig. I like that. Write that down. Send it to my secretary.
There you go, Scotch and Football, and then we'll chase the McKellans and the Glenn Levitts and all these people, for the. Or maybe we'll call it Brown and Touchdown, There you go. There's 2 great brands right off the bat. If you're listening to the show, don't steal my idea before we do it. Huh?
Scotch and Football, buddy. That's the one. You're a brilliant man.
Yeah. Cool, man. So I think we can end the show there. We'll talk about AFC South next week. We'll be back on our regular schedule, I think. Recording on Tuesday, dropping on Wednesday. Sorry this one's a little late, but, sometimes Brad and I have some life to take care of, right? It's a little thing called life.
Every now and then, buddy.
Yeah. All right, but hey, Brad, thanks for taking the time, and I know this was kind of tight to get the recording in. Everybody else, thanks for listening. Once again, Fantasy Football Almanac and Draft Guide. Check it out on Amazon.com. It is awesome, if I do say so myself. Go out, make some bets, get paid.